Our new partner who I'm really, really excited to announce we are working with. Super, super stoked. Thank you, Angie Huberman, for this connect. It's incredible. AG1 Athletic Greens. I've been using them for a while. I have them every morning on an empty stomach. Basically, take one scoop and you put it into a cup or glass or mug of 8 ounces of cold water. And this is all your greens for the day. You're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Every day I take this. It's so good for my digestion, my energy. It's simple. It's easy. I don't like taking a lot of vitamins. This has been really, really helpful for me. I've had a lot of stomach issues my whole life, and ever since I've been gluten-free and taking the AG1s, it's really helped me in my stomach in the mornings. I love it, and I'm so psyched that they're part of the One Life One Chance podcast. I'm sure a lot of people don't like eating greens, let alone drinking your greens, but I can tell you straight up, it's got a mild tropical taste, and the taste is actually really refreshing, and I really look forward to it each morning. Don't think it's just going to be just straight bland. It tastes really, really good, and it's good for you, so remember that. This one blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. It's incredible, just one scoop, especially for musicians who are vegans or just musicians in general who want to get those daily greens. You can get the packets. It's incredible. I just gave some to my friend Derek from Sepultura. He traveled the whole entire world this summer, and he had those every single day. He said it saved him. I bring AG1s with me when I travel. It helps me stay healthy. You know the deal. If you're on tour and you are a picky eater, but you need to have your greens, sometimes catering doesn't have greens. Sometimes you miss the catering. Sometimes you miss the backstage food. Sometimes it's too late after the show to go get food that you like. So if you just have a scoop of AG1s in your hotel room before you go to bed, or you're in the hotel room at night and you're starving and you want something healthy, boom, life changer. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with some convenient daily nutrition. That's all you need, one scoop in a cup every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. This is it. I'm super psyched. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit drinkag1.com/OLLC. That's drinkag1.com/OLLC. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. This is incredible. I love it. It's just basic greens. For me personally, this has changed my life tremendously. I'm not a junk food vegan. I don't eat a lot of fake meats, so I'm strictly greens. And this has been a wonderful, wonderful new addition to my life. So once again, visit drinkag1.com/OLLC. That's drinkag1.com/OLLC. Get 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. That's drinkag1.com/OLLC. Yo, Liquid Death, thank you so much for hydrating all my guests, taking care of me and my family and my friends. Love your water, love your brand, love what you stand for, love what you give back to the community. If you want to learn more about Liquid Death and how it started, listen to episode 115. With the co-founder, owner, and creator of Liquid Death, Mike Cesario. Just a punk rock skateboarding kid from Delaware with a dream. It's an incredible story, incredible journey. So if you go liquiddeath.com/Toby, you get free shipping on any items you order from liquiddeath.com. And if you want to get water, Liquid Death water, go to amazon.com. But for merchandise and other things that's not water, go to liquiddeath.com/Toby and get free shipping. Thank you so much, Liquid Death. Death to plastic, murder your thirst, stay hydrated. You know H2O saves lives.
I got this.
Welcome to the One Life One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Today I have my brother from another mother to the right of me, Mr. Chappelle Lacey.
Yep.
Thank you for joining me, Chappelle Lacey.
Thanks for always saying the location of where I'm at.
Well, that's where you are.
Because it's a listening podcast. Like, no one sees the video. There's no video.
Also, it's good that I say that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Thanks for always saying my location.
You're welcome. And then we have the man, the myth, the legend, Dennis Lyxzén. Thank you so much for being here. I call you Dennis Refused. That's what people always put, like Toby H2O or like Freddie Madball or. But your last name?
It's a very hardcore thing to do.
Very hardcore thing to do. Your band is your last name.
Exactly. How would you? But say your name how you would say it, like properly.
So if I would say the American version would be Dennis Lyxzén, and then the Swedish version would be Dennis Lyxzén.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a bit different.
Well, thank you for being here, man.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. We had such great conversation. We picked you
I know,
up
I'm excited.
like on the way here, and I don't even know where
I've
to
been waiting
start.
for this moment.
I know, dude. I don't know if we start with your tattoo and we go backwards. I don't know
where
you
we start.
surprised him in the car.
Yeah.
And we could talk about everything. There's just so many things to talk about. First and foremost, I told you in the car, like, to me, which we'll get to, you're like the Walter Schreifels of Sweden because of all your projects, all the diversity, all the different bands you've been in, everything. And so that's a compliment, obviously.
Thank you.
But
thank you.
that's, and I call Tim Armstrong the West Coast Walter Schreifels.
Yeah.
As far as like songwriters, you know what I'm saying?
Songwriters and versatility.
And diversity and different groups they've been in. And because there's a lot. I mean, you've done a lot, man.
I have done a lot.
So
and
much.
you started like a very young age, too.
Yeah. My first hardcore band, I was 16, 17.
Was that Final Exit or Step Forward?
Step Forward was my first band, and they're very influenced by New York hardcore.
New York, let's get into it. Which we talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was your first band.
Yeah, I had a punk band before that. It was like we didn't do anything. But Step Forward is like the first band that was like a proper band, proper players. And like 2 years ago, someone released our demos on vinyl, which is pretty awesome.
Whoa.
And then they still hold up pretty well. It's
That's
like
amazing.
super fast. Like we were into, I mean, obviously New York hardcore stuff, 7 Seconds, Life Sentence.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of that kind of token entry, just
Yeah.
that type of hardcore, and just it was kind of fast and melodic. And
Yeah.
then when we broke up, that's when I started Refused.
Was it easy? So there was no internet back then. So
Nope.
was it easy to? How'd you find like New York hardcore? Like how'd you find that?
Well, I got into it. I was a metal kid, complete metalhead, and I wanted to play music, but it felt like everybody that played metal had no social life, and I was way too busy driving my moped and doing shit, so I couldn't really play. I wanted to play, and then I discovered what we would say crossover. So
DRI?
DRI crossover, of course, that record, but also, I mean, one of the first records I bought was Crumbsucker, Life of Dreams, Agnostic Front, of course, Victim of Pain record. So Cro-Mags, Age of Quarrel. So that stuff kind of led me to hardcore and punk rock. And then I was like, well, I'm going to start playing hardcore. So I started like a punk band, and then Step Forward became like my first proper band. And I mean, there's a bunch of record stores. You're lucky you could find some of this stuff at the record stores. I mean, the Crumbsuckers and Agnostic Front, they were on Combat Records in Europe, so you could find them at the record stores. And then you're looking at the thank you lists and the band T-shirts.
Yes,
that's how you discover bands. You looked at like, he's wearing, what is that? And they're like, oh. And then you went to the record store, and so a lot of time for me it was funny because I'm like, 7 Seconds, old school hardcore band, and I bought Ourselves, the first record I bought, which is their like U2 record. Yeah. And then next thing I bought was the Skin, Sprains, and Guts 7-inch. So I'm like, boy, this is confusing. It's like two different bands. So before the internet, because I didn't know, and I didn't have any, I had no older friends that were punks, and I kind of had to like charge ahead myself and discover all this music. So, but I mean, I've always been super curious, and I've always been like really looking for records. Even
when you were younger, you into music?
Yeah. I mean, I was into music at an early age. I bought my first record when I was like 12. I bought my first record, and then I just kept buying records.
Do you remember what the record was?
Of course. David Bowie's Let's Dance.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, I still have it. And when
still have the copy?
The one that you...
Yeah, of course.
Oh, wow.
Of course. And it's kind of beaten up, but when he died, I woke up, checked social media. Bowie's dead. I ran up and put on Let's Dance. I mean, I have all these records, but that was the one because it's the first record I ever bought.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit to like growing up too, and like school and everything. How were you as a kid? What kind of kid were you?
Kind of
before punk.
I mean, a crazy loner. I was very like kind of wild, but I was also kind of I hung out by myself most of the time. I ran a lot in the forest.
Really?
Well, we lived like on a countryside, so like literally just walk out the back door, and I was in the forest, and I was just there hours on end, just running around. That's kind of what I did.
How old were you?
I mean, from like 5 till I was 14.
Okay.
That's kind of what I did, and then it wasn't until like I discovered music that I found people that I actually wanted to hang out with.
Yeah.
Before that, I was like one of those dudes like. I knew everyone a little bit, but I didn't really have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
By choice. I was very like, I don't like people. So, and then I discovered music, and I could bond with people over music, and that's kind of how I found my peers, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about school? Did you like school?
I hated school so much.
Did you get good grades?
I hate no good grades. So when I was, here's a true story. When I was 6 years old, I could read and write fluently. And when I was maybe 9, I started reading like adult literature. I was at the library all the time reading books.
Wow.
And then when you were 9, you were supposed to learn like cursive writing. Like, I don't know what it's called, like when everything is, you know.
Cursive, yeah.
And I couldn't because I learned how to, I learned it myself. So I'm writing the wrong way. So I couldn't write cursive. And then they put me with a special teacher. I'm 9 years old, and I'm like, fuck this. I'm done. I'm done with school at the age of 9. And that was it. Yeah, I never did homework, anything after that.
Were your parents tripping
I'm
on
not
that?
super stoked. I was
Because you're 9 years old. That's
Yeah,
to make that decision.
Yeah, I was like, fuck this. I'm done. And then I was one of those kids, like every, teacher parent conference, like, he's a smart guy. Like, he needs to assert himself. He needs to work harder. I'm like, not going to work harder. So me in school was horrible. The last, gymnasium, which I guess is kind of high school here, I went 2 years, and the last year I had 60% leave of absence because I was just, I'm done with this. So
Wow.
it turned all right.
What were you doing? Were you skating and stuff too?
I was skating. I was hanging out downtown, just nothing, doing nothing.
Yeah.
Up to no good.
Were you a good skateboarder?
I was decent. I was sponsored for a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, and I competed in like the Swedish, championships long time ago.
Wow, just street skating?
Street skating, yeah.
Like
I
jump
was,
ramps and shit? And
yeah, I was a decent mini ramp skater. I did a lot of no complies.
There
Wow.
you go.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
a lot of no complies, like step offs where you did spins with with your hands. And stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah,
So you started playing music while you were in high school?
I started playing music when I was maybe 14. Started my first practicing with friends, and and then
Yeah.
my first band I was like maybe 15, and then Step Forward was 17 when we really started like playing shows and being like a real band.
So 17, you would have been like a senior in high school if you were in school. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you already put music out at that point.
Yeah. Well, demo tapes and
Yeah.
Yeah.
playing shows,
And at that young age, you knew you wanted to do music?
No, I thought it was something that I was going to do for a couple of years, and then I got my shit together. I was even with Refused. I was like, when we started Refused, I was like, well, this is cool, but maybe, in a couple of years I need to figure out what to do with life. And it was interesting because I didn't think I had any talent. I just had like a lot of raw power. I was this guy with all this energy. And then David, the drummer from Refused, was like super talented. He was one of those kids like everyone's like raving about. He's going to be the next like big session player, drummer, jazz drummer. And he went and he saw Step Forward live, and he was like, wait, I don't want to be, this is what I want to do. So that's how we started Refused, because Step Forward was his favorite band.
Wow.
And he was one of those dudes like, I'm going to be a musician. And I was like, I'll be punk for a little bit, and then we'll see what happens. And here I am at the tender age of 50, and it's all I've done my entire life.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
So Refused, how soon after that?
That's
fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
So how old are you when Refused
Yeah.
starts?
17?
No,
You said?
91.
Ah.
So I was like 19 when we started Refused. Yeah,
19.
yeah.
And that first record came out like 94, right?
93. Yeah, 94. You are
Yeah.
correct.
So
94.
Refused starts. Are you guys playing lots of shows immediately because you had other bands and people already knew you and all
Yeah,
that?
yeah. There's like a little bit of a scene.
Yeah,
We're
small.
playing, and it's like a different culture because we had like all the youth centers in Europe.
Yeah.
So in our town, we had like 6 different youth centers. So you just play one every weekend. And
Yeah.
that's just, so I mean, when we started, we played all the time. Like the first 2 years, we played in Umeå like 20 times because, well, let's just play. And now it's like, nowadays it's like, you played in Umeå 4 years ago. Okay, maybe you can play Umeå now. And it's like, it's fucking weird how that changed. But we played all the time, and we just put in the hours, basically.
It's
Yeah.
so wild to hear someone talk about that scene, because that's what I've like looked up and deep dive my whole life.
What, all that
The
stuff?
Umeå scene, yeah.
I we'll dig into that.
Yeah.
to see-
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Finally hearing
Well,
someone like
around this time, is his brother's band already around at this time, Chappelle?
GS13. That was
No,
90.
that's
Okay.
later. That's later. They're
later 90s, right?
They're later 90s. My brother started playing in a band called Abhinanda.
Yeah, I know Abinati. Yeah,
Of course you know Abhinanda. He was the drummer from Abhinanda. So they were like
Oh,
our,
yeah,
our
Go ahead.
kid brothers kind of band. Because when they started as a joke band.
Okay.
And then they actually became a proper good band. But they
I
were
can
like
relate.
they were like our best friends, and they also wanted to play music. And one time when Refused went on tour, they started the band and like played their first show because they didn't want to see us, or they didn't want us to see them play or something like that.
Yeah.
But then they became like a real band,
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was later on.
Yeah. Well, Abinanda is like 90. That's also like 93, 94. So that's like the early like the Desperate Fight Records era of hardcore there. Yeah.
You said one brother. You have other siblings?
I have 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my brother that played in Abinanda and DS13 and all those bands, he still plays music. He has a super good new band called Nyx.
Yep.
They're fucking amazing.
Bro knows.
That's so cool. And
Because we're friends on Instagram.
All right, settle down.
yeah,
Let's
they're
go.
great. Nyx are great. And then my
Okay.
other brother, he's 10 years younger than me. He plays in a bunch of bands. He's INVSN sound guy. Has
Okay.
been for like the past 10 years. He's a great
Nice.
sound guy. He builds super weird guitar pedals.
Oh, wow.
He does music. That's what he does. And
Yeah.
I have a sister. It's 20 years younger than me, and she has 20 horses. So
I was going to say the whole
To-
family of
to-
musicians, but
So
she's
wait,
20
are you
horses.
the oldest?
I am the oldest. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow,
Yeah.
20 horses?
Something like that. She
That's
has a big
amazing.
farm of horses.
And you all
wow.
pretty tight?
Yeah, we're tight.
That's cool.
Tight family.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the influences for Refused in the beginning?
Gorilla Biscuits.
All right.
So the first show we played with Refused. So we had Step Forward. We broke up, and then me and David started Refused quite like instantly. And a
According
friend,
to the internet. You
yeah,
did.
yeah, and a friend hit me up and he was like, "Do you want to play a show?" And we're like, "Step Forward broke up. We got a new band." Like, yeah, we'll play with a new band. So we took the bus 3 hours north, and we had like 4 of our own songs, and we played like 3 GB songs and a Shelter song.
Wow.
That was like our
hilarious.
first show.
Yeah.
Wow.
That makes sense now that I think about the song Fusible Front.
Yeah, because we were
Oh,
like,
wow. Yeah.
because we
Total-
wanted
yeah,
to
yeah.
have that, like that Gorilla Biscuits, that.
Yeah.
But then, as soon as we start playing for real, like David's such a weird. He's like a metal drummer. Like when I
Yeah.
met him, he played like in a technical death metal band.
Yeah.
And then the guitar player is kind of a metal dude, so that's how it changed from like wanting to be Gorilla Biscuits to something completely different. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was the influence.
Yeah, early on, and then it's like that when David came into the fold, like he was into like all kinds of weird metal and avant-garde music, but also punk and hardcore. So it's like from like day one, everything we were influenced by was like a huge variety
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we just want to sound like Sick of It All.
And then what was like the attraction to like the youth crew stuff for you? You think it was?
Well, I just think it was the energy of it. I think
Yeah.
that just like, as I said, being a metal guy and being into metal, and then discovering like that energy,
Yeah.
the same energy that metal had, but like it's like in its rawest
And cooler
essence.
haircuts.
Yeah, cooler haircuts. You know, and there was something about that directness and almost bluntness of it that was
Yeah.
super exciting.
Mhm.
And also, I mean, I think I was young, and I'm like a lot of like the like youth crew, like Youth of Today, and even Sick of It All bands like that. It spoke to me. It's like about
Yeah.
like being young and being like angry and trying to be someone different.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Were you? Is that what inspired you to be straight edge in the vegan world too?
Yeah.
Those bands.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, straight edge. That's like Youth of Today thing. I was like, Youth Today played in Fagersta, Sweden, and I was supposed to go. So here it's like when you're young, like I'm gonna go to this show. It's like 8-hour train ride, and I was at skateboarding, and I got hit by a car, and it ran over my skateboard, and I'm like, I have to make a choice: buy a new skateboard or go see Youth Today. I have to buy a new skateboard, so I didn't go see Youth Today. And their friend went, and he called me up, and he's like, it was pretty good. They're fucking straight edge. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I had to do like look at the lyrics. I'm like, okay. And then he was like, yeah, they don't drink. I'm like, that sounds kind of cool,
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Had you been drinking before that?
Of course.
And was that was that Youth of Today's first time going to?
Sweden, yeah, I
Sweden?
think so, yeah.
It was
And
like a shitload of kids showed
Yeah, it
up.
was like 88 or something like that. Yeah.
And that's how you heard about straight edge back
Yeah,
then.
yeah. A
Wow.
friend talked shit about straight edge. I'm like, this sounds interesting.
And then what about veganism around the same time?
A little bit later, but it was also kind of early. Like I became a vegetarian super early, 89. I became a vegetarian.
Yep.
And then 92, I think we went to Norway. 92, early 93, we went to Norway with Abinanda. and we met some hardcore kids, and they're like, we were vegans. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And then they told us, I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And they gave us a copy of Peter Singer's Animal Liberation, and off we go.
It's so cool. Like just being in America during that time.
Yeah.
I became vegetarian in 1988. Lived with Gorilla Biscuits in 1988.
Yeah.
And just the impact that music and that scene had where he's at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the effect on him as a young kid hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was cool.
crazy.
Yeah. Because it was like, it was so far removed. And it was funny because like it felt really far away, but it really impacted our world. You know, we were a bunch of kids and we're like, this seems cool. And I was very much like, I was one of those kids, like, I always felt like an outsider, like very alienated.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I had the mohawk. And I was like, you know, like I'm that guy.
Yeah.
And then I'm growing up in this small town where people, they drink and then they talk about drinking and then they plan their drinking. And I kind of did that as well. And then one day I was like, but we're all doing the same thing, like the punks and the greasers and everyone's doing it. And then, so when I became like straight edge, it was like the most offensive thing I could do. Like people
shocking.
hated me for it. And then when I became a vegan, people like people wanted to fight me because I was a vegan. People like, you know, so for me, that a lot of that was also like a way of like, okay, you think I'm weird? Fuck you. Look at me. I'm super weird. So it was like, you know, a lot of that. Yeah.
Wow.
That is insane.
There was a big like straight edge vegan community scene in Sweden too back then.
Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
I got to say, when I became
You might
vegan
have set
straight
it
edge,
off, man.
there was no one.
Okay.
It was me. you know,
Yeah.
and a couple of my friends.
Wow.
And then that exploded. And when Refuse started touring, so we started touring 93 in Sweden for real.
Yeah.
And back in those days, we're like, we'll tour Sweden. We'll do 20 shows in Sweden. Now it's like impossible to get 3 shows in Sweden. But we played every little town, every youth center. We did the whole thing. We're like, after the show, we just hung out with everyone. And next time we came back, everyone's vegan, everyone's straight edge.
Wow.
There's a hardcore band in every little town. So that, I mean, it wasn't us only, but that's kind of how it spread. And then in the mid-90s, that just exploded. And
Really did,
then they
man.
burnt down the meat trucks, and it got all over the news. And it was like
in Sweden.
yeah, in Sweden, in Umeå, that happened. Like,
because that was happening here with Earth
Yeah,
Crisis and all
yeah.
the other bands.
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
So then that became like it exploded all over the news and the media, and I was like the vegan guy on news for
You're
like
the one.
for years. Like every time, like, oh, here's a vegan band Refused, and I'm like, but we're so much more than that. And they're like, no, let's talk about veganism.
So now
It's
you're
so
like
crazy
the Carl
hearing
Earth Crisis,
that.
Carl
Yeah.
Earth Crisis of Sweden at that
yeah,
point.
but with progressive politics.
It's crazy hearing that because, like, growing up where I grew up, like, I only knew 2 people that were vegan.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't know, like, you know, like multiple people.
Were you more in the punk scene though, the whatever?
Yeah, but I mean, but like, you know, like one of my favorite bands, Epileptic Terror Attack, when they came.
I can't believe this is happening.
Yo, who is Chappelle, man?
When they came
You had to drop that. Go.
When they came to that was the first band that because the promoter was I knew the promoter
Yeah.
that brought them out to Arizona to play the Nile.
Are they
Yeah.
from Sweden?
Yeah, they're from
They're
Sweden.
from
Yeah,
Umeå. They're like my
from
buddies.
Umeå.
Oh
Yeah,
my
Umeå.
God, this
Yeah.
dude.
And so
I know this dude.
and so when they came to the town, like the promoter was like, "Yeah, I gotta find these guys like they don't eat meat." And when we had heard that, we were like, "What? They don't
Of course,
eat meat?"
they're
Like,
from
what's-
Umeå. They don't eat
we
meat.
didn't know like what it was or whatever. But yeah, I saw them in I think it was 2001 or 2002.
Yeah, that makes
something
sense.
like that. Yeah.
That's such a trip.
Isn't that crazy, man?
It's such a trip.
Well, for the listeners, he has a tattoo of
DS13.
DS13, Dennis's brother's
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you ever seen a tattoo, DS13 tattoo before.
I don't think. Well, maybe,
On an American,
maybe one of the guys in the band had one,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's probably
It was my first tattoo.
Wow.
That's so
Yeah,
insane.
that was my first tattoo.
That's
So,
incredible.
So, all
Yeah.
right. So let's break this down.
Break it down.
So the bass player Chris is
Yeah,
a
Chris,
good
yeah,
good
yeah.
friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
But he lives in Stockholm.
Mhm.
I mean, he was at my birthday party when they did their first reunion. It was my 40th birthday.
Oh no,
That's the
I
only
watched.
reason.
I watched
Yeah,
it on.
yeah,
I
yeah.
watched it on YouTube.
And then so
I'm gonna have him leave soon. Don't worry.
the singer of DS13,
yeah,
we played disc golf together 3 times a week.
really.
Yes.
I don't think you understand.
Can you tell him Chappelle says
I
hi?
look at it like the way someone looks at like the band, like I'm trying to think of something. The way people like look at like Metallica
Yeah.
or something, where they're just
What?
like, that's the way I look at DS13.
I love this
follow
song.
every single one of them on
So-
Instagram,
so
and
we-
I used to talk to your brother a lot back in the day, oh my God,
Is this guy a stalker?
in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I would ask him about like the songs that were in Swedish. I go, what's this one about? What's this one saying? And your brother would write out the.
Of course he would.
write
He's
it
the
out.
nicest person.
So nice.
Yeah.
You need to go to Sweden, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's been my dream.
It's a bucket list, bro.
It's a big bucket list.
So then also so you got my brother on guitar.
Yeah.
And the drummer Andre plays in my band
yeah,
INVSN.
Yep.
So it all, I mean, they're like my best buddies.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
shared practice space for 15 years.
Yeah.
This is such a trip,
Isn't
man.
that
Yeah.
crazy? Like just the impact of music in that, especially
So
hardcore.
what's crazy is I knew about
'Cause you're younger, too,
I knew
so.
about more hardcore bands in Sweden than I did in New York at the time.
I
found out one of the first New York hardcore bands that I found out about was Token Entry,
Yeah.
and that's because DS13 used a sample for Viscator,
Yeah.
that song in the opening track.
That's so sick.
This is amazing.
And so I was like, damn, who's this band? And so
this is a very niche podcast we got going on here now.
No, it really is. And like Chappelle, like you've been waiting for this day.
I've
man.
been waiting for this day. Listen, I've been
I don't
listening
think
to
he's
that
ever
band.
met anybody.
I've been listening to DS13 since I was 15 years old.
That's so
Wow,
rad.
dude.
I
15.
love it.
One of my buddies showed
His
me
brother's gonna be psyched.
gave me the CD to borrow.
Yeah.
And I never gave it back to him
Of
because I
course.
was like, it was the Kill by Kids.
Yeah.
How
was
did you
that-
find DS13?
One of my buddies, another black
Because
guy.
it's because
actually.
it's another black guy. Because it's obscure. In a
It's
sense.
very obscure.
Yeah. But
And
I mean, they had their moment. I mean, they toured the States.
They toured the
two
States.
times.
Yeah, 2 times.
And in that whole
2001 they
thrash,
did, yeah.
early 2000s thrash hardcore scene, they were doing pretty good.
They
Okay.
did, yeah,
You know,
really
so they
good.
weren't
Yeah.
super obscure, but I mean, they were around. They
Yeah.
played some of their hardcore fests, and
Yeah.
and
then-
they were a great live band.
Yeah, and so then I just started looking up because they were on Deranged Records.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like I was just trying to find.
He's like, who is this guy?
So then I found out like about other bands, Bruce Banner,
course, yeah.
Bruce Banner, the Vectors.
Bring him out. Keep
I
dropping
mean,
the names.
this is like the most obscure punk bands that this podcast ever had.
Seriously.
It's so good.
What else, man? What else you know?
I don't know.
about
Now I'm just geeking.
So
but
then
yeah,
you got
like,
obsessed with Sweden.
obsessed. I was
But-
like,
and
I
then-
gotta go
then-
there because I could also see that the shows in the scene just looked so big to me
Yeah.
from where I was.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I assumed like it was.
It was good. I mean, it was weird because so we have here's the lineage of time in music. So
Let's go.
late 80s to 91, there's like a really small punk scene, but it's weird because like there's like 2 hardcore bands, 1 punk band, 1 death metal band, and we all play together because it's the only thing that we got.
Yeah.
And then from 93 to 98, we have the whole like Desperate Fight, Refused, Abhinanda, Donuts,
Mhm.
Donuts.
you know, all those bands.
Yes.
And then from 98 to early 2000s, we have like DS13, ETA, all those
ETA,
bands,
yeah.
like more thrashy. And then we have the New Vogue thing with Regulations, the
Yeah,
Vicious.
I love Regulations.
Yeah.
Regulations is
It's,
like.
I mean, it's ETA with a different
yeah,
bass player,
yeah.
So we have that scene, and that was my record label. I put all those records out.
That was your record label?
Yeah, New Vogue is my,
Oh,
it's
wow.
my record label.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
Mr. Deep Dive.
I know,
Oh,
right?
you
Yeah,
know that
I know. I failed that
Yeah.
one.
You didn't know
I
that
failed
one?
that test. No, I failed that test.
Yeah. But so it's been, I mean, now there's a little bit of resurgence in the scene. There's like some cool bands,
Yeah.
a lot of young kids at the shows. So it's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, I still live up there, you know. I
Are
never
you still the
moved.
same area and
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah,
Yeah, and they, whenever they would do their reunion shows, I would always look it up
yeah.
because I'd always find out about it.
I-
I would also buy all their merch.
That's awesome. I wanted them. I turned 50 last summer,
I saw that.
and I was
you
like,
look great, by the way.
thank you.
You're
thank you.
50?
He doesn't even look
Yeah.
like he's 50,
There's
bro.
no fucking way.
Guy's got good hair, everything, this guy, man. Okay.
I work hard. But I wanted DS13 for my 50th birthday, and the singer is like, no, we're done now.
He's done now? Yeah,
He's
yeah.
done. He's like, we're done.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of footage of them online and stuff?
So much.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
there-
deep dive and I found like a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of good
There's
stuff.
there's
on them.
some footage of Epileptic Terror Attack
Yeah.
as well. Like there's yeah. That's like my shit.
So is Refuse like the first like real band for you that like you're just doing music? Like
Yeah.
you're not working some jobs.
Yeah.
It's like you went full in.
I mean, we had some side jobs, and there was a lot of hustling.
Yeah.
A lot of hustling in those. I mean, we're like, I have an internship, and it was, like a lot of bullshit to get
Yeah.
by. So yeah, but it's the first. I mean, those years in the 90s, we were so active. We toured and recorded and played all the time.
Damn.
Yeah, a lot. And so it wasn't really, we had like side jobs, and once in a while you did something. But I mean, I haven't had a proper job since like 93 maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that job, you remember?
I worked
Like
at a
clocking job.
grocery store. Yeah,
93 was the last one.
I think so, yeah.
Damn.
It's a long time
It's
ago.
pretty beautiful,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Just doing music.
Yeah.
I know. And as I said,
That's a
it
blessing.
was never part of what I
Plan.
wanted
The
to do. I
plan.
just,
Yeah.
what I thought I could do,
What was the first time you went to America?
1996 with Snapcase.
Woo! That's a
Whoa.
banger.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow.
It was problematic.
It was?
Oh, we were assholes.
You were.
Yeah. We came over with a very self-righteous attitude about
Ooh.
politics and music, and we were I don't know. I think it was a little bit of a culture clash because we
Yeah.
were straight edge hardcore, but we were super political. Very influenced by the whole European hardcore that was way more into the squats and the politics.
Yeah.
So we come over with that attitude, and Snapcase crowd was more like, we just like hardcore. We don't want to hear about these pinko nonsense that you're spouting off from stage. So it was like a bit of a clash, and then I think that because we toured with Snapcase in '95 in Europe, and we had such a great time that they invited us to the States, and we came over, and we were kind of being assholes about being in America. And there was a lot of I remember playing in Jersey at some WF hole or whatever it's called. And
Yeah.
I was like, tomorrow I'm going to be in New York for the first stage. I'll see the Statue of Liberty. Here's a song called Burn It. And the guys at Snapcase were like, man, that's not cool. But they were so patient with us. They were great, but we were, I don't know. It was wild.
How was New York? Were you excited to go there? Because all the
Yeah.
music you love there and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
of course, we're super excited. There's photos of us outside CBGB's, fucking, whoa, let's go to CBGB's, take photos. So, I mean, yeah, we were super excited to go there.
Any of the New York bands come out to see you back then?
I can't remember. We played,
Probably GB guys. God,
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
We played in Long Island
Oh, okay. The
with
scene was
Serpico.
okay.
Yeah.
Long Island was popping back then.
Yeah.
The P-WAC
Yeah.
was a bunch of venues.
Yeah, it was good. It was a pretty decent show, but it was weird. The record just came out on Victory. And
Oh.
yeah, Songs to Fan just
Yep.
came out, and
That's
we
96.
were kind of unknowns,
Okay.
Mhm.
We put on a good show, but everyone was there to see Snapcase, and they were like, I mean, that was also the peak of their almost the peak of their popularity. So they were
Yes.
doing great, and we were kind of struggling, which I also think made our attitude not great.
Were you guys pretty big in Europe at that time, though?
No,
Wow.
and that's the thing. Refused has a strange trajectory because we worked hard and we played a lot, so we became one of those bands in Europe we could tour Europe, and 100 to 150, 200 people could show up.
Yeah.
And then we played a lot. We like Snapcase and those type of bands. We toured the Madball, and we did all this stuff. But we were never a big band. And when we broke up in '98, we were like, yeah, fuck this. No one cares about our band. A year later, we're the biggest hardcore band in the world.
It's
Yep.
fucking
Because
crazy,
we broke
bro.
up, and then, I mean...
It's the craziest story.
It's crazy story,
and
dude.
Craziest story.
It just took off, and I'm standing there on the sidelines. I'm like, what's happening with this band right now? And, Kirk Hammett's on MTV talking about Refused, and you're like, wait, what's going on? This is fucking wild. And we were broken up. I started Noise Conspiracy immediately. So
Yeah.
I'm out there grinding, touring, and everybody's like, I love Refused. I'm like, where were you 2 years ago? What's
Yeah.
happening now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that was 98. You guys broke
'98
up.
we broke up. Yeah,
The Shape of Punk to Come. Holy
Yeah.
shit. That was Epitaph, too, right?
yeah, that was Epitaph.
Damn, man. That was a good time to be an Epitaph, too.
Yeah, it was great, but I mean,
But that record came out and nobody wasn't...
No. I mean, I got to say, the hardcore scene, that world, maybe not always the most open-minded people.
And that's...
Yeah.
It was
So
that
true.
record was ahead
Yeah.
of its time.
And,
It was ahead of its
yeah,
time.
so
It
a
was
lot
ahead
of
of its
the
time.
people that we played for at that point, Songs to Fan is such a condensed and
Yeah.
raw
Mhm.
record. And everyone was like, what are you guys doing? And we had samples, and we were super pretentious and wearing suits, and people like, what the fuck's up with these guys? So when we broke up, we're like, yeah, that was kind of a failed experiment.
Mhm.
No one really cared. I mean, we did
Mm.
weird shit, and we were just kind of being weirdos, basically. And then, the record kind of had a life of its own, and people discovered it, and oh, this is actually a really cool record. So, but yeah, we broke up thinking no one will ever remember this band.
How long after it
crazy.
was out did it start becoming popular? Was it years? Because
no. I mean, I
Couple.
think
You said
with-
a year later?
Yeah, even
Yeah.
just
99.
6-7 months after we broke up, that's starting to percolate, because
Mhm.
it came out on Epitaph right as we broke up. We were
Yeah.
touring the States in September of '98, and that's when we broke up. And then the record came out in I think September or October '98. And then you could hear a little bit. People got some good reviews, and people started talking. So like a year after we broke up, it was selling a lot of records.
Damn.
Which is
Yeah.
Was there radio play for it a year later? None of that stuff, right?
It's a lot of MTV play because
Oh, that's
the new
right.
Noise video, people
That's
love that
right,
video.
dude.
So they were showing it all the time, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here?
You know what's crazy? To take it back when he says about hardcore is not the most open-minded for trying experimental
For sure.
things, and they want the same record over and over again. They
Yeah.
want you to only play in their basement. Then you fast forward to hardcore now with how diverse, with Turnstile and all these different bands. It's so beautiful how the different influences of pop music's coming into hardcore, and nobody gives a shit.
Well, when you
what
yeah.
label either.
Well,
know
when you
what I'm
really
saying? How
think
is
about
now,
it,
it's
like
beautiful.
your
But they were
first
ahead of that.
Yeah, your first record was you bought David Bowie. Like it, like
Yeah.
we've all
Yeah.
had this kind of underlying
100%.
thing like before we discovered
Yeah.
punk and hardcore.
Yeah.
You know, like I think there's a root to us of like other shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of hip hop and R&B.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in
I have a Madonna tattoo.
yeah, you have a Madonna tattoo. Like there's a lot of things, that it's like it's in all of us.
Yeah,
like
but
every
it
single one of
wasn't
us.
cool
But
to
it-
show those influences in your hardcore band.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
And now, hardcore's never been better.
It's crazy.
Never been
It's
better.
so good.
And it's
There's
because
so
I think
many
it's
good
because
bands.
it's
And the
allowed to be able to do
open-mindedness
that.
is actually
Yeah.
happening in the
Yeah,
hardcore,
yeah.
especially the young scene.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of old head gatekeepers that like,
Yeah, but
that's not-
whatever.
Yeah.
yeah.
you
But
know.
now it's thriving. I feel it so much because we live in California. The shows every night, young bands. It's so
The shows
beautiful.
here are insane.
Yeah.
But
every night.
but
Yeah.
this record in particular it was way ahead of its time. dude.
way ahead of its time.
Like if
way
that
ahead
came
of
out
its
like
time.
right now, it's I don't even
Yeah.
know,
Way ahead.
man.
I mean, it holds so much weight.
It
My son
I
was
mean-
randomly. My son was playing a song off it months ago, and I got in the car. I was like, "This refused." Like, yeah, you don't fuck with this song. I go, "Yeah, I know those dudes." He was blasting in the car. And
Wait,
he
I
loves
think
it.
I was I showing him?
I don't know.
'Cause I was
Sometimes my
trying- I
son
think it-
finds
yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
I was like, "Refuse? You fucking serious?" He's like, yeah. Like my son randomly. It's so I love.
Because
that shit.
I show Max a lot of my favorite drum tracks.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And Deadly,
yeah, 'cause
Deadly
Max-
Rhythm
Yeah.
is one of my favorite
Yeah.
tracks for drums.
But Max tried playing a Refuse song in the garage. One of the
It's
songs
so
you
crazy.
showed him.
Yeah. So that's probably
So my son's like, "Yeah, I fuck Refuse." Like, it's
Yeah, I
so
wonder if
crazy
that's the-
how it just happens. Like
Yeah.
generations.
Yeah, I
you know
show
what
him
mean?
so
Like,
much.
That's good.
It's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
I mean, it's a trip. It's weird too because it's your life is so, and you know this. Like you do something and then you kind of move on. You do
Yeah.
other stuff, but that little time of my life will forever define who I am.
Yeah.
Good and bad, And for a long time, it was frustrating because it was like I'm doing all this music, and then someone's like, "It doesn't sound like Shape of Prayer." I'm like, "No, it's not, because it's a different band." But then one day, I mean,
Just that pressure. You felt pressure.
Well, I felt that it wasn't fair because you want to evolve and you want to try other things, and then people are like, "We don't want you. We just want you to do the, refused or whatever." But then one day they made some like a reissue. This is before we got back together, and I listened to it. I'm like, "Yeah, I get it. This is a cool record." And I texted David. I'm like, "Fuck, the record's actually pretty awesome." And he was like, Yeah, it's
really
actually
good.
pretty awesome, and then but for me, it was a long time coming for me to come to terms with, because it overshadowed everything, and it was kind of weird to be like out there, struggling and playing shows, and then people, "I love Refused." I'm like, yes, but this is another band,
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I'm so grateful for how much that record touched people's lives, and how it opened so many doors for me to be just the person that I am today. But at that, right after, you're like, fuck that band. Like, it's a failure, no? And
Did you have any expectations for that record? Did you love that record when you made it?
I said, this is too weird. The hardcore scene is not going to like it. And Dave was like, no, it's a great record. I'm like, but it's a bit too weird. But I don't think we had huge expectations. We was like, hey, it's a cool record. We put it out. And then we broke up and we're like, yeah, so I guess no one liked that record, right?
I don't know if you know this, but sometimes they play New Noise in like stadiums.
Yes, I've seen.
Yeah,
some
you've seen that?
footage.
Yeah.
It's fucking
They-
insane.
They'll play it in stadiums, like for sports.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You know what I mean? They'll play it in the
yeah.
stadiums.
It's wild.
There's some. Yeah, I've gone to like some like sporting events, and I go, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
I go, really?
And what caused the
dope.
breakup? Was it just you guys are burnt, touring?
we
and
hated each other.
stuff? Okay. Well, that's respect. Yeah.
No, but we
got
were just
burnt out?
burnt out on touring, burnt out on each other, and also like we were young. Like you have to realize that when we wrote that record, I was the oldest guy in the band. I was 25. Dave was 22. So we were young, you know, and when you're a young person, you can't communicate your feelings.
Totally.
And everybody wanted to do different music. I was really into like what became Noise Conspiracy. I was into like the whole mod thing. I was into Northern Soul. I was into James Brown. That's what I wanted to do, and be super political. And David was like into experimental music. John was into drum and bass. So we're like, well, we'll manage to hold it together. And then, you know, like, it was just impossible to keep that, keep us all intact, because we wanted to go our different ways. And also when you're young, which I found nowadays, when you're older, it's so interesting. They were like, you know, someone wake up one morning like, I don't like hardcore that much, so I cannot play in a hardcore band now. And you're like, what? But that doesn't matter. Like, you can like what, you know, so, but when you're young, you're so like, it's so black and white. And we're like, we're done with this now, you know? So we just broke up, and we you know, it was a bit of a mess. And then, you know, time heals wounds, and you shift your perspective. And as you said, it was something about like, too, that part of the 90s where everything's being scrutinized, everything was political. The labels you were on, who could you tour with?
Boards.
Yeah, it was very like, and we were like trying to be political, and you have a record out on the wrong label, and it's all these things. And then, you know, finally you grow up and like, it doesn't really matter. A lot of that is just fucking nonsense, and it's privileged people making up problems.
Great point. Wow. I hated that, all that, because we were in a major for a second when the message boards came, and just all that, just like, it just was so draining.
And it was like, we were on Victory Records on Songs to Flame, and people were like, how can you be on Victory and talk about politics? We're like, we're a band from Sweden, we just want to tour. Yeah. Their record, they wanted to put our record out, and then they bring us on tour. So it's like, but, you know, in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, it looks a bit weird.
Yeah. So you're in Noise Conspiracy, you're just going forward with that. Yeah. You're not thinking about Refuse.
Nope.
But it keeps coming up. You're like, I'm just trying to start this another chapter. Yeah. The record's out, it's doing good.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. And you still make you did a grip of records with Conspiracy too.
Yeah, we did 4 full-length records.
Yeah. And that's going great too. Are people
no, I mean, that's the funny thing, like looking at my history, because I am very much defined by Refused. But when we're touring, I mean, so we got signed to Rick Rubin's label with Noise Conspiracy after we put out 2 records on Epitaph. Yep. And the last show we played on the second album in LA, we played the venue that's right across the street from the Capitol building.
Why is the fucking set down? Palladium?
Wait.
Wiltern, maybe?
Wiltern.
Wiltern.
No,
it was...
the Fonda.
No, it across the street from the Capitol Records building.
It's not the Fonda?
No, it's not the Fonda. Fonda's whatever.
Okay.
We sold out a 2,000 cap venue by ourselves.
Sick.
We're playing in New York, 1,500 people.
Dope.
We're building. And
bigger shows than Refused.
Much bigger shows. And we're touring in Germany. We're touring in Europe. We have like 500 on a Monday night, and we have 1,000 people on a Friday night.
That's great.
And we're doing really well. And then we signed to a major label, and that's the end of the band.
What?
Yes.
For real?
Well, I mean, it's a long story.
Was
but
that because they like,
what is it about
that? The long and short of it is like, we got fucked by the majors.
Okay, so that's because I hear that you just hear this story so much with like bands where like as I've done this podcast so many times, and you know, like I just hear it, like you're just like, well, yeah, when we got to a major label, that's when shit got fucking
Well, independent, like they're standing out independent, like crushing it, they're doing well.
Okay,
there's people helping them. There's different people at the label that can promote stuff. Like you go to a major, there's a million bands, and it's just like
you're disposable.
Putting them out, man. Disposable, bro. It's
so like everyone's replaceable.
Well, and also I gotta say that it's like
I don't know.
It's also like they spent a lot of money on our band. And I mean, we got to record 2 records with Rick Rubin. It's amazing.
That's amazing.
Those are stories for my life. But then we got tangled up in weird like label politics. It wasn't really about our band. It was like Rick Rubin wanted to go from. He had American Recordings on Island FM, and he wanted to switch to Warner, and we got stuck in that weird limbo. So it wasn't really our fault, but we just lost momentum. And then, as you said, there's like you're replaced, but there's so many people. There's such a flux of people because like you meet someone like, oh, he's our guy, and then 4 months later, like, no, he's gone, and like,
true,
who is this person now that I'm talking to?
Really?
And that just kept happening. And I mean, so. The first Noise Conspiracy record we did with Rick Rubin cost $400,000 to record, and it sold like 3,000 copies.
Wow!
you're like, that's not sustainable. That's not great.
I don't understand.
Reality.
Why would they give that much for a record?
Because it was Rick Rubin. He was like, well, this is how we're going to record it. We're like, I guess. I mean, my hotel, like I was in LA for 6 weeks doing vocals. Just my hotel bill was larger than the entire previous record.
There's a great, I can totally relate. We talked about this before. Our photo shoot for the back of our major label album cover for Go was more than the whole entire Nothing to Prove record.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's insane.
It's fucking crazy, bro.
And they were like,
throwing money at you, bro. Throwing at you. You have to recoup it.
And you have to recoup.
Well,
you can try. Recouping $400,000.
Is that what they expect you to do? Like, so they're like, hey, we'll give you all this money, but you got to recoup it. Right?
I mean, that's a plan.
Yeah.
And I think, we had momentum. We had Leroy Cohen come to our show and be like, fucking these guys. We're signing these guys. You know, we were on the cusp of something, and we lost momentum. And if you lose momentum, you know, and then the record. So it's a long story, but we started touring a record called Armed Love.
Yep.
And we played Coachella on the main stage. And that was supposed to be like, we're playing Coachella main stage, the record's out in a month. You know, like, fucking let's do this.
Yeah, that's
2004.
And when we're playing Coachella, Rick Rubin comes and he says, Leroy Cohen left. I don't want to be on Island Def Jam. We're going to switch. The whole label is switching. And we're like, what does it mean? He's like, I don't know. And then the record came out on Warner. So we did press for Island Def Jam. The record was like, there's promo copies from Island Def Jam. And then the record comes out on Warner 10 months later. All the press people like, we had this record a year ago. We're not going to review it. We're not going to write about it. Like, it was, you know, so we got just lost in this weird shuffle of like, and then Rick was super cool. He's like, okay, I get it. You can't continue to tour on the record that doesn't exist. And if we have no momentum, let's do a new record. And we recorded a new record, only $200,000. So it's a bit cheaper. It's not much, you know. And then Rick changed his labels from Warner to Atlantic. And Atlantic looks at numbers and they're like, why are we releasing this band? And then we got dumped off to Vagrant, and then Vagrant says, here's $1,000 to shoot a video. I'm like, we just recorded a record for $200,000. They're like, well, we'll give you $1,000 to shoot a video. And then we're like, maybe it's just time to call it quits.
Wow, dude.
It's fucking...
Isn't that crazy?
And it is funny because...
The ringer.
So they just kind of give you a runaround.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, it's just, as I said, there's so many people involved, and it's just like it always fluctuates.
Interchanging.
And
not everyone that's involved is on the same page.
No.
Sounds like
Rick was super supportive of our band. He was like, I love your band. And then one day he was like, well, I'm going to be the, like, whatever, vice president of Atlantic, and this is not going to work. I'm going to burn your number right now. I'll never talk to you again. I'm like, I guess so. That's going to happen.
Bro, meanwhile, you keep running Epitaph. You can call Brett Gurewitz if you want.
Exactly.
You call the owner, text the owner.
Yeah.
He put me up in his crib. Yeah. That's a difference.
It is a difference.
Yeah. Big difference. But
it's also funny because there's this whole ambition. And when we signed the deal, we're like, we're not going to be that band. And then 3 years later, we're that band.
Wow.
So did you leave Epitaph to go to a major?
Yeah.
Same?
Yeah.
2001 Holy fuck, bro. And Brett's like, you can always come back if you want.
Yeah.
He really did say that, man.
Brett's awesome.
That's we did the same thing.
That is
because
so
our
great.
friends like Newfound Glory is on there, Blink, and they're signing all these bands, and this guy's like, come over here. We're doing like more punker shit. And we did it. It was I didn't want to do it. You know that. It was scary. And then that label folded, and we got released, which never happens.
So
bro.
what like?
Fuck, man, that's so crazy. Love you, Brett Gurewitz.
Did you guys want to go to a major label?
Well,
were you guys kind of iffy about it?
We were planning on, but then Rick Rubin says, I want to record your band. I'm like, I love Slayer. I love Danzig. I love The Cult. I love everything you've done. Yes. And so the caveat was, if I'm producing a record, I'm signing you. And we're like, fuck yeah. Because I want to record with
Rick Rubin.
with Rick
Rubin.
Yeah.
You know, like he's the biggest record producer of all time. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being with our manager. He's like, we need to sign this contract. You know, he's sweating. He's like, it's horrible. Sign it. I'm like, yes. We're off to a good start.
Was Rick Rubin cool?
He was super cool. He was
so
super supportive. He was super supportive. He loved our band. He was super cool. So I mean, no shot on Rick, but we got caught up in like the fucking treadmill of just you know, and
fucking major labels. Man.
Yeah, but then I mean, it's a part of the fucking experience.
Yeah, it's
these stories are what brought us here today.
Yeah. So what are you doing? Are you doing band? What's the band right after that? Because that was like over in 2008, it seems.
Yeah. So the band
reunion's not to 2012.
Refused. Yeah. So INVSN
comes.
Yeah, INVSN started around that time, and that was like we actually got signed to a major in Sweden, but that was very different and very low key, small scale.
Yeah.
And then I actually released the vinyl myself on my own label. But so it's INVSN, and then Refused comes back.
AC4?
AC4 was around that time as well, yeah. So my hardcore band with David.
What about the Lost Patrol?
That was before INVSN. It's the same people.
Wow.
Lost Patrol band and INVSN's kind of the same crew. We changed our name and changed our language.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's what brings you back to the Walter Schreifels, where it's like the GB guys with the Civ guys, we're switching off the Judge, the whole crew of friends that do different bands together.
Yeah.
That's so
That's
cool.
kind of what I do. I've been lucky enough, like a lot of the people I play with and still play with, I've been friends with these people for like 25, 30 years. And I mean, still play music together. And I mean, I play with some new people, but most of it, my crew, like the Refused guys and like Sarah is like my fucking main conspirators. We do all our shit together nowadays. And it's cool to have these people that you really trust and you know each other and you want to play music together. It's really rad.
That's dope.
Did you come to America with INVSN?
Yes, we've done
did.
like two or three U.S. tours.
Okay.
No one came to see us play, but I mean, we toured. It was awesome.
You knew about
that? They played Arizona. They played the Valley Bar.
Yeah. That is awesome. I love it. But yeah, we've done... He knows more than me about that. Yeah.
Crazy, bro.
But we did some touring, and I mean we're still kicking around. We're playing shows.
Still playing shows?
Yeah. We put out a record a year ago, but it's only released like in Europe, and which is a bummer because it's one of my best records I ever put out. It's called "Let the Night Love You." It's a beautiful piece of it's
really
a beautiful piece of music, and we toured in Europe in December. We're going to tour in Europe after the summer. We're doing shows when I come home now, and we're working on new records, and it just keeps working.
You stay busy. You stay writing. You have so many.
Yeah.
You're always writing.
I got 5 active bands right now. 5 active bands.
Okay, what are the names?
So one is called Refused.
Yes.
But
we know that.
Not sure if you heard of it.
But Refused is low key active right now. Like we're working on music in a very, very slow pace, but we're still around. We talk and we're planning shit and writing some songs.
Hang out here.
I hopefully next year. And then we have INVSN, which I would say is probably the band that I spent most of my creative energy on. Just like they're my best friends.
Yeah,
it's Andre from DS13 and Sarah from the Donuts, of course.
Woo.
So it's
that's cool.
And the Vicious and Mass History and all those bands.
You heard the Donuts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then me and Sarah started a new punk band where she's singing and I play rhythm guitar.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
It's called Venice Casino, and we have a record come out in May. It's super cool.
Nice.
Very low key. We're like it's like a project thing, but we played a couple of shows and we're playing some shows in May and have a record come out.
Is it streaming?
We're not going to put it out on streaming.
Okay.
Only vinyl.
But
it's going to come out on streaming eventually. I assume.
Yeah.
I'll send you guys the link.
That'd
cool
be great.
Record. It's really fun.
That'd be great.
Like 16 songs in like 28 minutes.
Wow.
Like punk rock.
Yeah.
And then me, David, and Magnus from Fused started a band together with a jazz saxophone player. So it's like a free jazz improvised doom band. It's like doom metal but with saxophone.
That's pretty sick.
And I have a lot of I have a big pedal board, so I have a lot of vocal effects, and it's super free, and it's like very there's usually like a theme that runs with a bass and the drums, and then me and the saxophone player just improvise around it.
That's awesome.
And we actually recorded a record. It was Refused usually like 5 years to put out records. Like we work slowly and meticulously. And this guy Mats Gustafsson, which is he's known as one of the best improvisational free jazz players in the world, basically a saxophone player. And he hit me up and he's like, I have an hour at the jazz festival in Umeå. Do you want to play with me? I'm like, fuck yeah, what are we doing? And then we bounced some ideas and we shot like some demos, like here's like a riff, and then we met on the Thursday, practiced, played a show on the Friday, recorded a record on the Saturday.
Wow, man.
It's like jazz style. They do that all the time.
Oh, that's how they operate.
We have a record now. We recorded yesterday and we the band formed 3 days ago. So
it's so cool.
How like okay? How do you stay so locked in? Like you just seem so locked into all music, of it. Like it just almost seems like it's just the bloodline of you. It just seems like the flow just seems.
I just love music so much. It's just that's what it is. Like I love music.
Of creating.
And I also think it's like I want to. If I'm creating stuff, I want to push myself the whole time. I don't want to be complacent and be like, do this over and over again. I want to try new stuff all the time. I'll push myself. So I mean, just trying to. I hate being. I hate not doing stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like I
can't sit still.
But then sometimes I'm like, I look at my schedule. So I just did that. And then the last band is of course Fake Names, which is why I'm here.
Insane lineup, man.
Yeah, it's insane. We'll talk about it. But so I'm doing the Fake Names tour, and I come home in May and I play with 3 different bands in the span of 2 weeks. And that's a bit like, I'm like, oh, my brain, like the logistics of it, but also keeping, I'm like, so we're doing a show with Venice Casino, and then I'm going down to Stockholm to play with the new jazz band, and then I go home and we're doing a couple of shows with INVSN, and then there's another show with Venice Casino. So May is just like a weird puzzle of different bands playing.
Wow.
Sometimes I'm a bit like, maybe it's a bit too much. And then I started doing my YouTube channel. So I'm just fucking always.
So what's the YouTube channel? What's that?
It's called Dennis Deep Cuts. I talk about
my... You didn't know about that, bro?
I didn't.
Okay.
I talk about my record collection. Mostly.
Man.
Yeah. My record collection.
Is it massive?
I mean, yeah.
A couple thousand?
12.
12,000?
Yeah.
That's pretty freaking big, man.
Wow.
Tim Armstrong's got a big one, too.
Yeah.
That's like that Rollins level, too.
He's got one, too?
He's got a massive record.
Rollins, I don't think I can compete with Rollins. His
is up there, huh?
More than 12,000?
I would say so.
He that's the only thing he spends money on.
Yeah, yeah.
He doesn't buy anything but records.
Yeah, that's kind of my life.
He said he spent more on like his record like setup, like the record playing than anything else.
Yeah,
like
I'm not a hi-fi nerd. I just love records, and I collect records, and I buy a lot of records.
So on the YouTube, you're breaking down your favorites, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's different themes. Like, all right, here's a list of 10 amazing records that are not in English, and here's a list of my 10 most expensive albums, and here's a list of my 10 the best 10 Swedish punk 7-inches from the 80s.
That's cool, man.
And then I'm gonna do more like we do, like conversations and stuff like that. But it's when I'm isolated back home in Sweden, it's difficult. So I actually done some interviews while here in the States because I play in Fake Names, and I've interviewed all those guys.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have Chung Kink and Suck It? Judge
I
record?
don't have that one. Ooh. But it's so expensive.
It is.
It's so expensive.
It's like the most expensive hardcore record, supposedly, right?
Yeah,
you said.
It is, yeah.
Question, go ahead.
So you mentioned you read a lot of literature growing up.
Yes.
Do you think?
No,
Well, because I always like to tie things to like, and maybe it's not a tie to you. Yeah, to lyrics and all that stuff. Do you think that had a influence on, or what gave you a solid push to just be so, creative with your lyricism? Do you think that like really helped, just the reading that you do?
I do think that it's a big aspect of it, because I think that when I write, especially when I try to write for different bands, I kind of envision like a language that's that band.
Yeah.
So when I write for Refused, I know what words to use and what kind of language and what kind of patterns and rhythms.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is Refused. And then INVSN is like the opposite end of the spectrum. Yep. INVSN is way more self-reflective and personal, a bit more poetic. I mean, it's still kind of political, a lot of it, but it's more like, the personal aspect of it. Refused, I'm like, let's go violent. Let's go hard, and let's just like not a lot of like poetic phrasing. It's just in your face.
Yeah.
And then you have like something like Fake Names, a little bit in between. It's more direct. So I try to use language in different ways. And I'm one of those dudes, like, I'll read a book for the language, for the way someone writes and for the way things flow, which is my biggest grievance with a lot of music biographies, because they're written very poorly. And I'm the interesting stories, but they're written in a poor language, and I'm like, I can't get behind this. I want the language to be rich and exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel that too. Wow. Man, that just hit me.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a language nerd. I like, like what we can express with language, which I think it's cool. And I mean, sometimes we talked about this. Me and David were like, if you want people to scream something, you want it to be something that they can sort of relate to why they're screaming it.
Yes.
So that's a bit of the Refuse approach. Like, you do that. Like, that's something that people can really clench their fist and be like, I know what I'm screaming along to.
Yeah, I can feel it.
You know, so it's like all about finding these different patterns and languages, and so also in my mind, so I can compartmentalize a little bit. I mean, sometimes there's overflow of ideas, so I can sing. Look at me, Refuse song and Invasion song, that's about the same topic, but written in a completely different language. Yeah. But it's the same kind of sentiment of like, this is what I'm singing about, but it's a very different approach to it.
Now that I'm thinking about Deadly Rhythm, wow, that's powerful.
That is a good
song.
That
is. It just hit, all of it's hit me. That's so crazy. Well, because I was curious, you know,
you're
it's
getting
like
inside his brain.
Yeah. You know, there's something to it. There's like, I'm like, where does that? I'm always curious about that. Like, where does that come from? And you said in with the literature, like, and reading that, and you know, and I read a lot of books as well, and I think yes, every book that I've read, like now that I think about it, you know, it all speaks a different language.
Yes.
You know,
and they need to tap into. I mean, I assume what you do, you need to find your language that so you can, you know, use.
With comedy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I say, like, you need to find your language, and it easy when we're young and we love Gorilla Biscuits, we wanted to sound like Gorilla Biscuits, but then when we grow up, we're like, well, I need to find what is my language? How can I speak? You know, my voice. You know, and I think it's a learning curve, and I mean, I'm still inspired by stuff. I can still like hear a record. I'm like, oh shit, that's so cool. I want to, you know, like I'll borrow a little phrase here and there. And I mean, a lot of lyrics starts with, you have one line. Yeah. I like this line. And then, you know, you just build upon that line. And if you're lucky, that's the chorus, or it could be the verse. Then you build upon that. So, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because I am mainly a lyricist. Yeah. In a lot of my bands, I mostly just do the vocals. And I mean, Refuse, David's the main songwriter. INVSN, Andre from DS13 is the main songwriter.
Really?
That's awesome. He writes most of those songs. I write some of them. But so I'm very much a guy that like I get demos, and like the second I get them, I'm like, I know what to sing. I know the melodies. I know the rhythms. And the same thing with Fake Names. That's Brian and Michael. They send me demos. I'm really good at like coming up with lyrics and melodies. That's kind of what I do.
How does that happen? Like you and a bunch of Americans start a band over the pandemic or something before? Maybe
well, it was before the pandemic, so I was lucky. So I met Johnny Temple, the bass player. Girls Against Boys played
in Soulside.
Yeah. Yes. But Girls Against Boys played a show with INVSN in Copenhagen, and he was super nice. And we broke down and talked about DC hardcore and music. And then Refuse played Riot Fest a couple of years back, and he was there, and we were like, hey, what's up? You know, talking. And then the next day, so I guess they started the band at that point, and they were looking for a singer. And I think they asked a couple of people, but then they saw Refuse, and John's like, maybe this guy could do it. And the next day, so Brian Baker's there. I mean, I met him a couple of times, but I always been like, hey, what's up? You know, it's fucking Brian Baker from Minor Threat and Dag Nasty. And, you know, I'm like, fuck, you know. So he just walks up, like, hey, what's up? I'm like, oh, not much. He's like, I've got a new band with Michael Hampton from SOA. Do you want to sing? Yes. That's how. So cool. I'm like, yes. And I texted Andre. Yeah. Andre has a tattoo that says 80s hardcore on his arm. Yeah. Cool. And I texted him. I'm like, I think I might be in a band with Brian Baker. And he's like, holy shit. I didn't hear from them for weeks. I'm like, some elaborate prank. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And then they sent me some demos, and they're like, do you want to do some vocals? So I did what I do. I did vocals on like 3 songs. I sent them back, and they were like, come to New York and hang out.
Wow,
yeah.
Dude.
And then I had to sit in the Michael.
Is it hard not to geek out and shit at first? And ask questions?
I still, every day in the van, I'm like, what about, you know?
Yeah.
Because DC hardcore, like Discord, amazing. That whole world, that's what I collect.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, that's where I spend the cash. So I mean, every day for me is just like, first of all, they talk about DC hardcore all the time because they went to elementary school together, these guys. Yeah. And they played in bands together when they were 14, 15, 16, 17. They know each other. each other their entire lives.
Yeah.
So they always talk about, do you remember that guy? Oh, he's in that band, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, just taking notes. I'm like, fuck, I know everything about these people. But then once in a while, I'll sit there and there'll be a lull in the conversation. I'll just go, Iron Cross. And then there's like an hour of talking about Iron Cross. I'm like, all right, so that's
just throwing thing out.
Yeah. I just throw it out, and they're talking for an hour. I'm like, fuck yeah. So I still geek out. I still when I hang out with those guys, I'm like, I'm still like a very nerdy, hardcore person, So it's
Embrace. We talked about that earlier. Incredible album. Man.
Yeah. Mike was in Embrace, and me and Brian's like, we love Embrace. Mike was like, I don't know, man.
So Brian likes it too.
He says it's his favorite Discord record.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good minor threat questions. I'm sure all that stuff.
All the time. But
a Junkyard.
We talk about Junkyard all the time.
Gray Matter.
Gray Matter. No one of those guys were in Gray Matter.
We just saying in general.
Oh,
right?
no.
Oh yeah. No. We talk about Gray Matter. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Face.
All those bands.
Wow.
Yeah,
Scream.
Scream.
Woo!
So on this trip, we've done 8 shows in the States. I met 3 other guys in Scream at different shows.
You mean Skeeter?
I met Skeeter.
Woo!
What?
I love Skeeter.
I met Skeeter. I met the Stahl brothers.
Yeah,
every night it's like he was in that band. I'm like, fuck yeah.
How about Bobby Sullivan? He come out?
He did not come out. He lived somewhere in North Carolina, somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't come out.
DC was such a great scene, man. Such a beautiful scene time. The music, everything, all the politics, all the activism, and
fantastic.
protest.
So we played in DC, and the first band on is called The Owners, and it's Dante from the Ignition, Iron Cross, all those bands, and his wife, I think, and then the second band is Hammered Hulls, which is Alec from Faith.
Yeah, Amanda was at the show. Amanda texted me, told me she was at your show.
Yeah. So, and then we're playing, and it's like a crowd of DC people, and everyone's like, oh, she was in Fire Party. Oh, that's the guy from Rites of Spring, and he's from Dag Nasty, and that's the guy from Gray Matter. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm the only person on stage that's not from DC. Out of all these bands, I'm like, terrified.
That feeling's got to be insane.
But it was awesome.
Yeah, Amanda Mackay said you guys were awesome.
Yeah.
She said I didn't get inside Dennis, but they were great. She was at the show. Yeah.
Wow.
So great. Coming from your world and like even with Refuse and all the success, everything you had, but then just doing this band with like all these like heroes to you.
Yes, it's true.
It must be surreal.
But now they're just my buddies. So,
no, I know.
But it is like the first show. We played a show in New York. What
was the first show?
In Union Pool in 2019, we played one show, and then the record came out 2020, the pandemic. So we're playing this first show, and I'm slightly nervous, but I'm like, I played almost 3,000 shows at this point. So, I've done this. Yeah. But it's still like you look out in the crowd, I'm like, oh, also that show, like the Sick of It All guys were there. Like all the New York, Walter was there, all the New York people. And fucking Guy from Fugazi is right there. I'm like right in front of me, and I'm like, oh, that's the greatest frontman, not of all time, but top 10 punk frontman of all time.
He was in New York. Wow.
Yeah, he was just there. I'm like, oh, it's just Guy. I'm like, but it was great. But I was kind of freaking out a little bit.
That's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah. But now it's like, I don't know. It is interesting because I've done so much.
Yeah.
And me and Brian are like the most, done the most out of those guys. But it is interesting because I'm so in awe of their, where they grew up and what they've done. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah,
the songs are great. I listened to the everything you guys put out so far. I ran to it the other day. Love all the songs. Love the vibe. It's really cool, man.
And it's funny. I'll tell you this. I think that the idea of like the guy from Refused and the guy from Faith and the guy from Minor Threat, everyone's, it's going to be a hardcore band. But the thing is, like those dudes, honestly, they kind of invented hardcore.
Yes,
but they were punks.
Yeah.
They were into like the Ruts, and they were into, like the UK punk, Buzzcocks, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's where they want to go. I'm like, perfect for me.
And they're also grown-ass men who did that 30 years ago.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be more hardcore. We're like, no, let's just do a punk band. Good.
I love that.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
All right. Wow. Really cool.
I love how you geek out too. Like, because I feel like I'm always asking you questions too about New York hardcore. I'm always like, day. I'll just throw. I'll be out of nowhere. I'll be like, so Toby.
But it's cool. You're still a fan, and it's cool. You get to meet some heroes.
Yeah. And I
That's
love
amazing.
it. I love. I'm such a nerd about record collecting and music, and I'm that like. Here's a funny story. You know this guy. So we're playing in Jersey with Refused with the Deftones. and I'm on side of the stage, and I nudge David. I'm like, I think that's Gavin from Burn. And you know, Burn's very, you know, they're a small New York band. Yeah. They're awesome. And I walk up on, you Gavin? He's like, what? I'm like, I love your band. And he's like, what? Like, who the fuck? Like, that's the kind of nerd I am. I'm like, you know.
I love it. I saw you at the Chromax show. I came onto the stage by Mackie, and he was on stage at the Chromax show there too.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, let's go back again for a second. We're back on track. But International Noise Conspiracy, you're off the major label. You go back home. What's that time between that and then how the reunion happens?
I was broke.
Keep it 100.
I know. Right?
You were broke. You probably bummed. The label dropped the ball.
Yeah. I lived in the house by myself, out in the countryside, like really out in the countryside. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And I mean, we started INVSN, but it was like a low-key operation. We did some AC4 stuff, but you know. And I was kind of struggling. And then,
are you getting offers during these past couple of years for a Refuse show?
Yes,
leading up to Coachella and all that?
So the Refused offers, they were kind of a constant, and we're always like, no, it's not gonna happen. That's gonna happen. I mean, I remember one time we turned it down, and we're touring with AC4, and we played a show in Sweden in front of 4 people. I mean, David just looked at the show. I'm like, this is kind of crazy. We're playing in front of 4 people. And we just got an offer from Coachella for like hundreds of thousands. We like turned it down.
These are the AC4 in the front.
Yeah. So we get some offers, but I'm like, I don't think, no one of us thinks it's a possibility because we're like, you know, a lot of pride and a lot of shit we need to deal with. So I was like, there was a couple of years when I mean, you know, it was fine, but I was kind of broke and I didn't, you know, like there's a lot of like, I'll call the local club. I'm like, can I DJ? I need $100. You know, like a lot of that.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
you're like a local guy. People know you.
Yeah,
obviously.
Of course. Yeah. And I still did. At that point, I did put up a lot of shows. I did a club. So you know, but I was just working to sort of get by. And then then we get the offer. Third time they gave us the offer for Coachella, and then we said, I mean, I didn't. David knew I was like, I was curious, like, could we do it? Would it be cool to do? And then David calls me up. We got the offer, and he calls me up like, don't talk to the guys. Like, just let it simmer for a while. I'm like, whatever. It's been like, we got this offer, and it always turned it down. And then like 2 months go by, and I'm like, kind of forgot about it. And Dave calls me up, and he's like, we're doing it. I'm like, what do you mean we're doing it? He's like, we're doing it. I'm like, should we practice this? And no, fuck, let's do it. And that was it. Yeah.
Because that's like 98. And then to 2012.
Yeah. So this is late 2011. We kind of decided, okay, let's do it.
And do you have any idea how big that record has become?
I kind of knew.
Because you get royalties.
Yeah.
All that.
And I was at traveling. I was at touring. I was at meeting people. I think the other guys didn't really know. They were like, well, you know, people like it, and it's. But I mean, when we dropped that we're back together. I mean, there's like trending at number 3 on Twitter in the world.
Wow.
So I mean, it's like you're like, what the fuck is happening? You know?
Holy
shit.
That's so surreal.
Was wild. Yeah.
And so all your friends and family are probably like, holy shit. This is like.
My dad's been for years. Please do something. Like, get the band back together. I'm like, no.
Really?
Wow.
So as soon as you announced it, you knew it was on.
Yeah, it was on. But no. So here's the thing. When we announced, we were planning on doing maybe 8 shows. And then we got together and started practicing. And one of the things, yes, Coachella was a good payday. We got good money. But it also enabled us to, like, no one had to do it. So we practiced for like 2 months, maybe 3 months, like every day. We were like, let's do it as a job. So the money that we got from Coachella enabled us to be great when we came back. Because, I mean, you could do a reunion, and a lot of bands do reunions, and, you know, you practice 2 times. But, I mean, we practiced for 3 months.
Wow.
Every day. To get in shape and, you know, to get things going. And when we start practicing, we're like, well, maybe we should do more than 8 shows because this is feeling pretty good. And then we ended up doing 82 shows that year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
It got out of control.
And that's like a life changer for you, probably. Everything.
Yeah. But it was also weird because I'm so used to playing at those, you know, Arizona shows in front of 50 people.
Now you're in a bus, probably.
And now we're in a bus, and it's like we go on stage, and like before the first chord, we won the show. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I love the idea when you start the show and you build, and at the end of the show, we're here now. We're here now. We have arrived.
Yes.
But for that, we call it the victory lap. We're like, that's just a victory lap. And then you put out new music and it's just boo.
Oh, the Freedom record, 2017.
Exactly. And then it changed everything.
Wow. So you did the 80 shows. You got really inspired, came back.
Yeah.
We're making a new fucking record. Let's go.
Well, I think it was like we felt that we wanted to play more. And we felt if we want to play more, we also need new music because we don't want to be like just one of those revival acts. But let's put out new music. And we had the song Electra, which is, I think, one of our best songs. That was like the first demo that. So the other guys asked me. I didn't think it was gonna happen. And they said, we had got this one song. Should we do New Refuse? And they played me the track, and I'm like, yes, we can do something with this. So that's kind of how I started. And then we were like, well, whatever. I mean, we knew it was like a weird, impossible task.
Was there any pressure from because the last record before that?
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's like one of those deals. Like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. If it's too much like that record, people hate it. If it's not enough like that, people. It's like. But we were just like, let's just do a record that's true to what we're into right now and how we want to present it.
Right now, like this many years later.
Yeah. And I mean, it was like 14 years. We haven't written music together for like maybe even 15 years. And then we had to write songs. And I think the record's cool, but it's definitely, it's definitely mixed reviews. Let's say mixed reviews.
And besides Metallica, was it crazy people coming out of the woodwork? Did people think you like a brand new band?
Not so much.
Okay.
I mean, most people knew that we had a history, and I mean, New Noise became like a weird hit on its own. So people kind of knew. And then when we came back, I mean, it definitely changed people's perception of who you are. And you have new songs that you need to insert into the set. That, take away some old songs. And it was a bit of a struggle. I mean, it was fine. Like the tour was fine. It wasn't miserable. It was still on the bus and it was still big shows.
Yeah.
But it's just like a different dynamics when you have new music out,
Yeah. And just playing those songs, they're like that old at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, every time we start New Noise, I'm like, this is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Dude.
And you see the reaction of the crowd. I'm like, every time. No, but that's kind of what it is. And I don't take that for granted. But then, just as I said, the power dynamic shift because you have new music out and you kind of, people have to adapt to that. And it was a record it's a weird record.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
You loved it though? You loved it the last one? Yeah.
It sounds great. There's a couple of songs now that I would maybe change that a little bit, but that's also the curse of being a musician. You're like, there's always something that like, we could do that better, but it was fine. I thought it was a bold move, and I think it was a cool record.
And it's a couple years after you came back too, right?
Yeah. And then we did War Music, which I think is a fantastic record. And then Freedom served a little bit as a palate cleanser, so people didn't have to compare it. People compare War Music to Freedom instead of comparing Freedom to Shape.
Okay.
It makes more. And then people are, this
sense.
is a fucking great record. And then the pandemic hit, and here we are.
Just so many bands, so many projects.
Much.
Like, you just what do you think keeps you inspired? Just so you get to do what you love, you think?
Yeah, and I love music.
Yeah,
it's all about like just discovering music and pushing myself and just being in it. And there's something about like the version of myself that I am when I'm in music. That's my favorite version of myself.
Yeah.
When I'm fearless and I'm just, I'll do anything because I'm in the zone. Well, not every night, you know that. Some nights you look at the set list and you're like, oh no. And you start thinking like, I wonder if there will be some pizza after the show. I don't know what's going on. and then you know it's true. And then some nights you grab the microphone and then you look down and you're like, oh, it's New Noise. What's happening? And then to be in that zone, it's a beautiful thing. It transcends space and time, it's a weird thing for music to do that.
Well, it's keeping you young for sure.
I'm trying.
Definitely keeps you young playing music.
Yeah.
Is there a style of music you haven't tried to do that you like to try, like a genre or style?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. I'm so nerdy about music. I would try anything. I would like to do an orchestrated big, where I do like crooner stuff, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe one day.
Well, before we begin, probably I think you were doing Lords of the Underground. You're a hip hop fan too.
Yeah, well, sort of.
Did you ever rhyme on anything?
No. Well, there's...
let's go, bro.
No. There's some incredibly awkward, embarrassing rhymes on some of the early first, like, Refused EP. Because we were into, like... we were into some of that, like, crossover that was happening. Judgment Night, like, all that stuff. So there was some crossover. And also Rage Against the Machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Blew up at that time. So we're like, influenced by all that.
Yeah.
But I'm a horrible rapper. And I should never do. I know David talked a lot about putting out a hip hop record. He loves hip hop. I'm there's cool stuff, but he loves it.
But you grew up in the 90s stuff too, the hip hop?
Yeah. If I listen to hip hop, it's mostly that kind of stuff. I had a period I really liked stuff like The Goats and Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy, that kind of like political hip hop. I was really into that for a little bit.
Public Enemy?
Of course, Public Enemy. It is interesting, and I bought License to Ill with the Beastie Boys when it came out. I bought Run DMC. I bought Public Enemy because I was like, it was so adjacent to punk.
Yes.
In the early days, I'm like,
I always say that.
Yeah, and it was so because I was into like hardcore and punk, but that early hip hop thing, I was like, oh, super cool. So I still have those records from like 88 or whenever they
in your collection.
Yeah, I still have those. Yeah,
dude.
Because it was a cool thing. I have this I have an Exploited live album, and I pull it out and I scribbled, and it just says like Exploited, Anthrax, Cro-Mags, Run DMC. It's like, I'm like, that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
It's just diverse. Yeah, palette for music.
But yeah, I always just love music, and I'm very open.
Yeah, Public Enemy was so punk rock, man.
Yeah, they were, and they were so
NWA,
political. And there's a lot of that. Just like speaking of language, once again, like I incorporate like Disposable Heroes, Hypocrisy were huge for me.
Yeah.
Consolidated, but they were more industrial. They were like political, industrial, like hip hop. But that kind of stuff had a huge impact on me, like my political thinking.
Yeah. So were you into politics? Like, how young did you get into politics?
It was probably around when we started Refused. I was kind of into it because by default, because it was such a part of the language of punk.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck the man. It's always like, fuck the system. That kind of, so that when I started writing lyrics, it was a lot of that. But
propaganda?
That was later, but I love those lyrics on the first two records. But when I started writing lyrics, it was like par for the course, kind of like this is what you sing about in your hardcore band.
Yeah.
But then around 92, 93, I started hanging out with the young anarchist group in our town, and I educated myself, and then I got really into politics, almost so much that it became a joke.
Were your friends tripping out about it?
Well, a lot of my friends were in that anarchist group, but people around me, they're like, this guy's kind of going off the rails here. Damn. I remember going in the practice space screaming shit like, music should only be a tool for the revolution. It's a fucking bourgeois construct. Stuff like that. But it's hard to be in a band with a guy like that.
It's fucking cool, man.
It's crazy.
Fuck.
Even DS13 had some of the political stuff too.
Yeah,
Society Scandal.
It's part of like the punk language.
Yeah, it is.
Which nowadays you see punks and they're going some of them go a different route. I'm like, that's kind of weird that because it's so ingrained. It's for me, punk is like rebellion music. It's music about revolution. It's music about like getting people together, equality, like all those things. And then you see punks and you're like, Trump's not about that.
Yeah. It's true.
It's crazy.
It's about unity and not being
exactly.
Yeah. That's all I always got from punk rock.
And I think like on breaking it down on a political analysis, the fact that we have way more in common than we like to think.
True.
A lot of people that believe in like whatever right-wing conspiracy, they're kind of duped, and they want to believe in something and they want to have a purpose.
Yeah.
And then they latch on to these things because the economical, cultural, social realities are so fucking complex that it's hard to grasp. And then it's easy to be like, well, conspiracy theories, because it's like the reality is so complicated. And I think if you look at that and break it down, you're like, most people kind of want the same things.
I
think so too.
I think about that all the time. I go, when you really think about it.
But and a lot of people are indoctrinated into like, hating each other. And I always go to like the whole, like, who benefits from us hating each other. It's never us.
Never.
It's always someone else. And I think that's like, you got to break it down on that scale, because it's, if you also become one like, oh, I hate all the Trumpers, then that plays into that narrative. And
100%.
Yeah, and to try to understand what's fueling this hate and what's fueling these ideas. And
I think without social media, we'd be in a better place as humans.
Yeah, that is true.
Magnified everything and made shit perspective.
Because you got to think, like, everyone goes to their phone for information.
For the news, for everything.
Yeah. For everything. And meanwhile, like you just go talk to your neighbor. You know what I mean? Because like we've said before, you know, whatever people say online, if your phone is down, you don't know what's there. You don't know what's being said.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And because it takes you away from the reality of like where you really are, where you're looking at a screen constantly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like, there's people around. You can talk to people.
There's
you can
conversations.
Talk to your conversations.
And it's why I like this.
You
get the face-to-face
you get the more real.
I love it.
That's why I'll never argue with someone online.
No,
never.
If they say anything.
And you never win any.
Because one, it's like, well, I don't know who you are, and I don't know this. Like, I can't get an energy off of you. And you're probably just slightly upset at something, or you just probably just want to troll and mess around and like, let me keep this going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they probably don't even care what they're really saying, but they want to get someone riled up. So it's like it's too. Whereas like if I'm sitting in front of somebody, I can get your energy. I can know what the conversation is, the vibe.
We can agree to disagree on things.
We can agree,
But as you say, you can read in the vibe of it, because online it's hard to like. Are you joking right now? Or is this, you know?
Do you check your DMs? Do you talk to people online?
I respond to all my DMs.
Do you do this in negative comments? Do you let that bother you?
Well, here's the thing. I would say 98% of everyone that posts this on like my personal Instagram, they're super supportive.
Dope.
Once in a while, someone writes something, then I'll say, just get off. If you don't like it, get off my Instagram. You don't need to be here.
I like that.
And you know that's kind of my take on it. Yeah. And I mean, if people are cool about engaging in like a conversation, I'll sometimes engage. But most of the time, if people are assholes, I'm like, not gonna bother. Yeah. But I try to respond to everyone that writes me. I try to, even if it's just like a thumbs up, you know, like I love your band. I'm like, thumbs up.
A lot of times people appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Much,
so I try to engage. Even though I'm an old school punk guy. I you know, like social media is quite weird, and you know, there's always someone screaming behind me like more content, and I'm like, no, what's happening, you know?
Especially being a comedian, that's all I
get that. Yeah.
Plus, you're like in fucking 5 different bands. You have no time for social media.
Exactly.
Writing fucking songs.
I got gotta do shit, to fucking post stuff on.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I it's fine. But I try to engage with people. I try to talk to people, and just, you know, people are cool most of the time.
Yeah.
People are cool. So we did, but then once in a while people lose the plot, and you're like, so I did the bobblehead. And you did the throwback. Yeah. So
and it got stuck because of the pandemic. It took a while for people to get it correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so we posted it on the Refused Instagram, and you know the deal is like, you'll get 50 copies. You get 50 of these for free.
Yeah.
Give it to your friends.
Yeah.
You can sell them if you want to.
Totally.
That's the deal. And we posted on the Instagram of Refused, and people lost their shit. Fucking sellouts, you fucking capitalist bastards. I'm like, wait, what's going on here? People were so angry that our management removed the post. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? I got 50 copies for free. You're hating on me. It's like, you know, it's...
Of the bobblehead, yeah.
Yeah.
Same deal.
Yeah. And I'm like, what's going on? Why are you so angry about this? I do put down a lot of it. First of all, no one hates Refused more than our fans, which is kind of endearing that people are so opinionated about our band, which I kind of love it.
Okay.
But I also think a lot of it has to do with basic education about what capitalism is. Capitalism is when you are making money off the labors of others, and then people are like, I'm a proud capitalist. I'm like, nah, I don't think you own a Fortune 500 company. You're just some dude working, and you're an apologist for rich people. So there's some of that, you know, but, you know, most times people are kind.
Just do up the bobbleheads?
I sold them all.
Sick.
I gave a bunch of them away. I sold.
Me too. I signed some.
Yeah, I sold them. I signed them. It was awesome. People were super happy.
Yeah.
Dude, we have bobbleheads. It's such a...
That is
so cool, man. We made it.
Yeah, it's that. This is a sign of we made it.
Well, the bobbleheads. That's right. The same company.
Yeah.
You really can see people's level of education.
Yeah.
Through social media.
Yeah, you can. And you're like and sometimes you read the comments and like, I want to be like, no, but no, I'm not gonna be bothered.
Yeah. You want to do it, and then you're
no.
Yeah, you want to do it, then you're like, I don't.
Yeah.
What's like a day in the life you like? What's like a daily ritual or something you do at home when you're not touring?
I do yoga every morning.
Nice.
Get up, keep. I mean, you know how it is. Like if we're gonna do this, we need to keep our bodies in shape.
You wake up early?
8-ish.
That's good.
It's decent. Yeah.
Get up, do yoga, and then I work for a couple of hours. I usually so yoga, tidy the house. That's like 2 things. And then when I'm done with taking care of that, I'll work for a couple hours, and then I usually go and throw disc golf.
What's that?
Yeah.
Disc golf.
Don't tell me you know because you know everything about Sweden.
But no,
they do it here.
What's it called?
Disc
golf.
I've heard.
So basically, it's like golf but with frisbees, and they have these.
Yeah.
They have a whole.
It's the fastest growing sport in America.
Oh, okay.
You have maybe 20 courses just around LA.
Yeah, there's a bunch here.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
No, I will never forgive you for this. So
disc golf. Okay.
Yeah. So it's quite nerdy, and as you throw a frisbee into a basket.
Okay.
And when the pandemic hit, I was like, fuck, what am I going to do in my life? And a friend of mine called me and said, let's go play disc golf. I'm like, no. And I did, and I got hooked, and I love it, and I try to play almost every day.
Wow, it's very good exercise, too.
It's good. I mean, just a lot of walking, but it's like it clears my mind off of all the other shit.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're working as a creative person, and you both know this, like you're always on.
Totally.
Always on.
Every movie, every conversation, every record, it's like gathering information. When I go out on the course, I don't think about any of that.
That's awesome.
It's just like
1 hour.
1 hour, I shut it off. I go through a fucking disc in the forest. I'll go back home and I work. That's kind of what I do.
And working means just working on music.
Yeah, working on music. I got to say a lot of it's working on logistics.
Okay, logistics. Okay.
Logistics. You know it is. Like, a lot of music is actually like trying to fucking puzzle your schedule together or book some flight or it's,
so you do it all yourself, the booking and all that stuff?
Yeah, wow. Most of it, yeah.
Damn.
So
you drink coffee?
No.
Wow.
I never started drinking coffee.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm one of those dudes.
That's kind of cool. My wife never had a coffee either.
Yeah.
You tea guy?
No.
Caffeine guy?
No. Soda sometimes. I mean, yeah.
It's just water?
Soda.
Okay. So what's your soda of choice? Is it American brand or?
Well, I mean, they're all American brands.
Or Diet Coke?
Yeah.
True. All right. Not Fritz Cola.
Not Fritz Cola, which is probably one of my favorites.
I fucking love Fritz Cola.
It's very German.
That's my treat in Europe, Fritz Cola, man.
Fritz Cola is great. I like Dr. Pepper.
Wow.
An ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's your thing, your Dr. Pepper.
That's my drug of choice.
All right.
And record collecting.
But never coffee. Wow.
No, never coffee.
Damn.
Yeah.
Do you have any major regrets in your life?
Not really. I mean, you think about people, you could treat them nicer, or you could have worked out a situation in a different way. But I mean, everything. I'm quite happy where I'm at in my life.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that.
So it's not like I mean, everything dumb that I did and all the bad choices got me here. So I don't really. I mean, of course, there's some personal relationship. People like, I was kind of a dick to that guy, or
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the journey took me here, and the journey is the journey. And I think that's kind of the thing. Like, we're still working, we're still doing this, and we're still on this journey. I think it's pretty awesome.
I don't think you ever retire from music.
I hope not.
I think it's be writing. Even if you're not touring, you're writing, deciding, and putting stuff out.
Look at Iggy. He's like 72.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you ghostwrite for people too? Write songs for people?
I've done a little bit. I've done some, I helped out and did some collaborations and stuff like that. And I've been approached to ghostwrite, but I don't have the time really. Yeah. But I've done some collaborations. They've been cool, and you just lend my vocals to stuff, and did stuff like that a little bit. Yeah.
We'll be maybe top 5 artists or musicians that inspired you, or bands.
That's almost impossible. It's almost impossible.
It is for a lot.
Yeah. Well, I did
Just a couple.
On my YouTube channel, I did a thing where the 5 records that really changed my life.
Okay.
And really changed the trajectory of who I am. I'm gonna try to remember them, but it was Bowie's "Let's Dance," of course. Maybe it was the Beatles, because Beatles were the first band that got me into music. Still my dad's Beatles record. But I think, Bowie is maybe probably number one for me. Bad Brains. Probably, I mean, you know, it is interesting to hang out with those old DC people that are like, if you ask them, they're like, what's the best band you've ever seen? Everyone says Bad Brains.
So Beatles, Bad Brains, Bowie. This guy's on some B shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, I mean, what else?
They all seen the Bad Brains back in the day. The DC
yeah, exactly.
guys.
They all saw them and they're like, oh, they're the best live band ever. Let's see what else I mean, Slayer. Slayer was one of those bands where I was like, you know, like I bought Raining Blow when it came out. I'm like, holy fuck.
Insane
this is
album.
Next level of everything. Let's see what else really inspired me.
That's a sick mix.
Yeah, I tried all over the place.
Any New York bands?
I mean, well,
Iggy's New York right now, I guess.
Well,
no, he's Detroit.
Oh, sorry.
Iggy's Detroit.
Ramones, stuff like that.
Yeah, Ramones. I loved Ramones. I mean, Ramones were important. Like, one of the first records when I got into punk, my uncle called me. He's like, oh, you're into punk. And he gave me Road to Ruin. He's like, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Incredible, man.
And also, the first two, the Jam records. Really
the Jam,
yeah. But, I mean, that's important. But, I mean,
how about the Clash?
I love the Clash so much.
Amazing,
but I got to put it out there. As far as importance goes, Break Down the Walls. Youth of Today. I mean, that was such a game changer for me because I was into hardcore and punk and I was into metal, and that record, and my friend called me up saying like, "They're fucking straight edge," and I read the lyrics. I'm like, this seems cool, and so that record was a huge game changer for me. I mean, some of it now listening to it, I'm like, there's some corny lyrics and it's a lot of posturing, but what it did to like 17-year-old me, it's just blew my mind. You know? So that was a massive record. Yeah.
Any hip hop in there?
I mean, I would say them Public Enemy.
Yeah.
That was a band that was like, you know, the whole fight to power, and I was like, this is rad, you know.
So awesome.
It was so awesome.
That's a good question. I like the way you asked that because usually you ask people about albums, but you said life changing.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a better question. A lot of people have those like pivotal moments through certain albums that have like made them like,
and
someone,
it's
hard to list just 5 though, for sure.
Yeah, no, it is. And someone that really had a huge impact on me as for political writing was Billy Bragg.
Wow.
So because I was into punk and hardcore and a little bit of hip hop, and I was like, it's political, and I was super getting into politics, and I heard Billy Bragg, and he was super political, but he was like just him and a guitar, and the way he wrote about politics were different, and maybe not one of my favorite artists, but that impact of finding that first 2 Billy Bragg records, talking with the post-taxman about poetry or whatever it's called, and I'm like, holy fuck, you can write about politics this way as well, and that really blew my mind, and then, you know, that sent me of a trajectory to, you know, all things.
Yeah, nobody talks about Billy Bragg. He was pretty awesome, actually.
He was, like, some of his early stuff is so good, and it's so political, and it's really personal at the same time, and really kind of honest.
Yeah.
So that made a big impact. I mean, as I said, it's maybe not my top 100 really, but just that record, finding it, and that impact that it had on me, like in my way of thinking about politics and music, you know. And then
what does like veganism mean to you at 50 years old when you've been like your whole life with the environment?
Yeah.
And it's so popular now. It's everywhere you look. When we started, it was nothing. It was like
there's nothing.
Falafels or a tofu pup or beans and rice.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the world's kind of
caught up,
woken up a little bit.
So I think the biggest difference for me is in the 90s, I had to fight people because I was vegan.
It's true.
And now I walk in a room and some guy looks at me and gets so nervous. And he says, well, my girlfriend's vegetarian. I eat a lot of vegan food. I'm like, I didn't say anything. I just walked in the room.
It's crazy.
And that's the biggest change, I think, where it's just like people get kind of nervous. I'm like, I don't preach. You know, I'm just a vegan.
It's interesting how people like think about themselves and they see that. And
But I'm also, of course, I think the biggest change is that we were into veganism because of animal rights.
Yes.
We weren't really interested in diets or healthy food. It's like more like, let's blow up some meat trucks, let's free some animals, you know, more that route. And that's why I became a vegan. And now it's like, you'll go to any store in the world and buy, I'm vegan. They're like, we got you, which is...
Or plant-based.
Yeah, plant-based. Whatever. I'm fine with that as long as I get good food.
And Sweden's crushing with all that stuff.
Yeah, we are crushing it.
With vegan stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, you kind of were back then too, but...
Yeah, but now it's like everywhere.
Damn, it's so beautiful how that happened.
Man, I got to go to Sweden.
You gotta go. Why? You come to Sweden and hang out.
I would love to.
Come up to Umeå. We'll hit all the spots. We'll go to the punk shows. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
He'd be sick. I would go for that for his tour guide.
Yeah.
All this stuff.
We'll go to the final exit sign, the Umeå sign. We'll take some photos.
From the record?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then last question. You optimist or pessimist?
I'm an optimist. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't an optimist. I believe in us. I believe in our ability to do good things, and I mean, I can be a bit misanthropic in the view of the world, but I'm an optimist. If you want to believe in revolution, if you want to believe in radical ideas, you have to be an optimist. So I'm very much an optimistic. I'm kind of a happy person in general. With Refused, it comes up I'm super angry. So sometimes people have a hard time approaching me because they think I'm super serious and like I'm gonna approach Dennis, but then we need to talk about politics for like 5 hours, and I'm like, no, it's all good.
You're super chill.
I try to be.
Yeah, you are. It's like, don't you think so?
Yeah, 100%.
Did you think he was gonna be intense because of his music? Keep it 100, man.
No, because there's the diversity of his of all the different bands.
Yeah. Oh, chill out, Chappelle. You have any more questions for him? She probably got questions for him, man. This is your big day, bro.
You ask me anything about Umeå hardcore or punk.
I'm trying to think. You put me on the spot here.
No, this is your fucking moment. This guy's going back.
I know.
Home,
I have nothing like really to ask. I just like the scene was just so unique to me, and I just can't believe like at 15
just a
years
big
old.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, big thank you. Like that's no, seriously. You're right.
You know what I'm saying? Give his flowers,
because that was something that, when I discovered that scene, it just like really changed my life, and it really, because it was something different than what I was like listening to, and it was like powerful, and it was fast, and it just matched what I felt through my body.
Too,
it matched everything.
Because before you had anger management. So
yeah,
this was...
like when I first saw Epileptic Terror Attack, I was just like, this is home. Like
Epileptic Terror Attack is such a deep cut.
Even
in Umeå, it's such a deep cut.
It's a deep cut.
Yeah,
it's a deep cut. Because they only had the two records. Killed by Skateboard, and then We Are the Attack.
Yeah,
and so like those. I mean, and then
Killed
by Kids and.
There's something so.
I don't know if I'm saying it. Vad vet vi om kriget?
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Vad vet vi om kriget?
Is
what do we know about the war?
What do we know about the war?
Okay.
Yep. I asked your brother that, and he told me what it meant.
So there's something exceptionally beautiful about someone in Arizona discovering a small band from a small town and it being a life-changing experience. Because that's what happened to me. I heard these American hardcore bands. And I was like, it changed my life. And then you have this weird. So the punk world is we're very open-minded most of the time. Like you'll go to Mexico and some kid hit you up like, "Yo, you coming to Mexico? Do you want to hang out?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, drive me."
Take me to the local spot.
Exactly. Yeah. So my partner is always like, "Who are you meeting?" I'm like, "Oh, you're just some dude." She's like, "Do you know this person?" I'm like, "No, he's some punk." And she's like, what? What? How does that work? I'm like,
but that's what
just
it is.
the way it works.
That's just
really
what
beautiful.
it is.
Somebody DM me like, hey, I live in this town. I'll take you to all the vegan spots when you come. Meet me at the venue. Yeah. I'll just go meet somebody.
Yeah.
Even at this time in my life, I'll do that.
Yeah. I'll do that all the time. And now even with the disc golf, I'll just hit up people like, I'm in town. Does anyone throw some disc? And fucking random strangers pick me up in their car. And I'm like, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that smart of us? Is that...
I don't know, because you trust it like this. It's because our world's so niche, and like we all have a certain way about us,
but it's hard. It's hard to see that now. Like back in the day, you see somebody with a Fugazi shirt or a Misfit shirt, and you knew that they were like, okay. But now it's just different. How things are so big, you're not sure.
I mean, anytime I've worn a DS13 shirt, no one's ever talked to me about it.
Of course. If you see somebody with that, you know you're on the same page.
Yeah. But if someone like if I see someone with it, I actually did. At your show in New Jersey, there was a guy wearing a DS13 shirt.
No way.
Yep, swear to God.
Ran up.
Yep, and we like, and it was like immediate because, like you said,
you show me tat.
Yep, and we had a full conversation when I was working the merch for you at the Crossroads or whatever. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, and then I went to like certain areas of like Sweden to like what other areas have other bands, and I found out about this band Kriegshot. Yeah. And that singer had passed away.
Maybe he
died in the tsunami.
Yes.
Mishko.
Mishko.
Yes. And then Mas Grav. Yeah.
Mask it up. Yes.
Aren't they from? They're from Stockholm.
I think they are. Yes.
Yeah.
They just played in Umeå 2 months ago.
Yeah. I like those guys too. Yeah. There's. I mean,
who is this guy? Chappelle?
He loves hardcore,
bro. Isn't
he
this
loves
beautiful?
Swedish hardcore.
It's
so never even been there. I love it,
What's
dude.
so crazy too is I found that before New York hardcore.
I love
dope.
it. That's so cool.
That's the craziest thing.
I've got to put the question out though. Is this the most niche you've ever been on this podcast?
100%, man.
All right, people are gonna be. Who are they fucking talking about?
People got so many gems in
Hey,
this episode.
listen, send me DMs and I'll show you all these bands.
But like, this is so many gems, and thank you so much for being here. And like, when we talked about it for a couple months, and you made time, and it was really awesome.
It was really awesome.
Really talking to you and catching up. We met throughout the years, but now like having this conversation.
Yeah. It was
awesome.
beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Damn, this is great.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm gonna go book
Anything
my
else?
flight. I'm gonna go book my flight to Sweden.
Yo, Dennis, we covered everything, right? We covered a lot. We're good.
We covered a lot.
With the notes.
Is there an airport in Umeå?
Yes, there is.
Oh, man.
You can fly all the way up. You can stay at my house. I got a big house.
Damn, in the woods?
No, it's in a small town.
Right
outside Umeå. 20 minutes outside
Okay, last
Umeå.
thing. You never wanted to move to America? None of that stuff, ever?
I've been tempted, and then I realized how expensive it is to live everywhere. So I'm like, nah, I'm just going to stay here and I can travel instead.
Yeah, you probably own your crib. You're up in some spot. You're chilling, dude.
Yeah.
Good for you. And you worked hard, man. You worked hard your whole life playing music and
still working
doing
hard.
what you loved and believing in yourself and
just keep on doing
it. You never quit.
Nope.
Like when one thing stopped, you kept going. I love that. It's really inspirational, man.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for listening, everybody. You can find him on social media. You can find his band everywhere. His band's everywhere.
I know, right?
Fake Names is out now. The tour's over, obviously.
Tell Jonas I said hi.
I will.
That's his brother.
He's going to listen to this one.
Yeah, he will have to.
But Dennis, thank you so much for being there, bro. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was beautiful.
Okay, bro. Bye. I always ask my guests if they have any regrets. I personally don't have any regrets. Even when it comes to my tattoos, I have the silliest tattoos. Even my ET on my leg, it's still a childhood memory for me, and I love it. I've had tattoos on top of tattoos strictly because I wanted more tattoos. I started getting tattoos when I was 18. I'm 52 now, and I can't stop. I've had laser treatment before on something on my arm. It's 4 tattoos on top of each other. And that experience at that place was pretty fast. It was pretty cold. It was in and out, swipe the credit card. Don't really tell me much. Didn't give me much details of anything was going to happen. So I never went back. So as of most recently, I'm so lucky enough to have had 2 sessions at Removery Tattoo Removal. My tattoo on my arm that looks like a big black blob is now super light. I've had 2 sessions. I have a long road ahead of me. None of this stuff happens overnight. You cannot take a tattoo up in one sitting. You have to be patient. And it's painful. They ice you up. It's super fast. To me, it felt like a bunch of rubber bands. But what's more painful than that is looking at something on your body that you think you're stuck with for the rest of your life. That sucks. But now for me, I'm really happy I started this journey. I'm slowly going to get this tattoo removed. I never thought in a million years I have any kind of real estate on my arm. I don't even know what I want, but it's exciting. I'm so honored to announce that One Life One Chance podcast is now with Removery. I have a code. Use TobyH20 and get $100 off your first session. Call 866-934-4570 or go to removery.com. One of the most experienced tattoo removal companies in the world. Over 600,000 removal treatments done. 100 locations, U.S., Canada, and Australia. State-of-the-art peak-away laser technology, cryotechnology to reduce any discomfort. This is so exciting for me because all I do in these podcasts is talk about tattoos. From day one, if you've been listening to this podcast, talk about tattoos, talk about getting removed, talk about getting covered up. So this is such a perfect fit for me. Once again, go to removery.com or call 866-934-4570. Use my code TobyH20 and get $100 off. These guys are located everywhere. Try it out.